having some technical difficulties, so I'm trying to pull everything up.
Okay.
We're live, but take your time.
Technology. Is it, hold on, that one?
Councilmember Shealy, are you logging in on your iPad? I've got a notification from you.
Yes,
All right.
I am.
Just want to make sure it's not someone.
Good, thank
else.
you. I'm in. Yeah, thank you. I'll hang up on the phone too, so.
Can you all see this now?
Yes, ma'am. I see the planning, permit, and engineering section.
Okay. Tim, if you want to, Mayor, I don't know if you want to do a moment of silence or anything, but.
Let's take a moment of silence. All right, turn it over to you, Amy.
Okay, Tim, I'm turning it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Amy and Mayor. I'll go first today, and I'm going to be showing you this organizational chart just as a reminder of where we are before I go into the new program for the budget. Where we are in terms of 4 departments that I'll be presenting today. As a reminder, we earlier this year created the Department of Development Services, which is where we've consolidated all of our services related to development in the city, whether it's a big development or a small development, whether it's a single property or somebody renovating their kitchen or significant development. All of those services are now within this Department of Development Services and is led by Ron Bucci, who has been an employee of the city for a few years and was chosen to lead this department. So within the department, you have a consolidated group of inspectors, and that is I'll start with building inspections on the top, which does all our building permitting and inspections, led by Ken Granata. That team is within this department. Next, we have a consolidated group of plan reviewers. It used to be that we had stormwater plan reviewers in one department, and separately we had engineering, road plan reviewers in another department. We've brought them together within this group called Engineering Technical Review. And then we have infrastructure management, which is a variety of things related to managing what we as a city own in terms of streets and stormwater infrastructure and so forth. We've consolidated our inspectors into that group. So it, again, had been that we had stormwater inspectors in one department and separately engineering inspectors in a different one. They're all now together within infrastructure management. And then we also have our floodplain group within this department as well. So we're building it out. We're really excited about it. That Ron is phenomenal and he's building out his team. Anthony Girallo is now in charge of the infrastructure management group. We're recruiting for the engineering technical review leader. We have someone that's accepted that position and they'll be in place in the second week in October. Of course, we have Ken Granata's group. So anyway, that team is filling out and very excited about where this will go in terms of just making a more predictable, consistent, easy to navigate process for anybody that's building anything in the city, and really excited for Ron to lead the group. You all know housing and community development, which as a department is one that we've had for some time, and we haven't made any changes to it. planning and preservation as well. And then stormwater management, which is an amazing group that, as you all know very well, it's so pivotal to the city doing capital projects, small ones and big ones. And Matt Fountain leads that group. So I'll go to the first slide. So I'm going to get into I thought it might be helpful to present the group that I'm representing today in these requests for the 2026 budget and new programs within the 2026 budget for these 4 departments. The first one on the list, if we want to go to the first slide, you all have this set of slides, is development services. And for new programs within development services, we first have the reclassification of a position that would be the inspection manager within infrastructure management. Again, we had 2 groups of inspectors in 2 different departments. They've come together. We need a lead for that group of inspectors. So we'd like to reclassify a position that would be a leader of that inspector group. The second request within infrastructure management is something called a lead infrastructure asset manager. We have one person that does asset management within this group right now and has for some time. The work that they do is specifically devoted to stormwater infrastructure and the city. And so whether it's new development and ensuring we know what we're responsible for, what the city owns and maintains in terms of stormwater infrastructure. That group is, that person does solely the stormwater infrastructure work. We need to build out that group a little bit because we have so much more that the city is responsible for: streets, sidewalks, bridges, and so forth, that we have to do a significantly better job of managing. And, you know, it will help us tremendously in terms of understanding what we own and maintain, helping us through the years now as we get better at this, understand what the maintenance costs will be associated with all this infrastructure. And again, that's new infrastructure, but it's existing infrastructure in the city. So we need a leader within that group on the infrastructure management side. That's what we're proposing, is a position to lead that group. The next one on my list in development services is a civil engineer technician. Within the engineering technical review group, we have engineers that do plan review. As you all know, council has supported us bringing in third-party engineering companies to help with plan review, and that's been phenomenally helpful. But we have a team of, and we'll always need a team of city plan reviewers. We're proposing this position, which would be an entry-level position within the plan review group, the engineering technical review. We've got some more senior positions there, but we'd like to create a hierarchy of plan reviewers. And this, we think, will be very helpful because it will be for, you know, younger, less seasoned plan reviewers that we can bring in out of college and so forth, such that they can work their way up in the city within that group. The next one is a development services permit tech within infrastructure management. We are committed to making the permit center a highly, you know, functioning place of customer service in the city. We committed to having a representative for each of these departments within, and even divisions within, that permit center, so that when we have customers that come to the permit center, they don't have to try to find somebody to help them. You know, we're all there to help anybody with any issue they have related to permitting. So this permit tech position would be a representative for development services embedded within the permit center. Then we have a right-of-way asset manager. This is a less senior position. I mentioned the infrastructure management asset, infrastructure asset manager. This would be a position reporting to that person. It actually would be the kind of colleague of our asset manager that works on stormwater right now. This would be someone to devote to the other issues within the right of way, so streets and sidewalks and everything else, bridges and so forth. Less senior position within the asset management group. Then within development services, we've got a line here for, and this is just, obviously this is a 2026 budget discussion that we're having. We will be coming back to council soon in the current year to propose some changes to our stormwater plan review fees. So we're accounting for what could be, if council decides to approve those, some additional revenue in 2026 through a little adjustment in fees. On the next slide, sticking with development services, we've got these final three here, which are all basically trying to create better career progression within the divisions that are part of development services. So that would be for infrastructure management and the inspectors that are there, but it would also be for building inspections and for plan reviewers within that engineering technical review team, just creating incentives for them to get additional certifications and training, incentives that would, hopefully result in, a group and employees within these groups that are, as good at what they do as anybody anywhere, and would allow people that are working within these divisions and within Ron's team to progress professionally while they're with the city rather than moving on somewhere else. So that is the requests associated with development services first. On this slide here, the next item is actually related to the Civic Design Center. It says executive. The Civic Design Center, however, in the 2026 budget will be part of planning. And the request here is for an additional designer. I will say, you all know better than anybody how much the city's growing and how many important things that we've got to do everywhere related to the quality of that development. So whether it's on Maybank Highway on Johns Island or Sam Rittenberg and West Ashley or Clements Ferry Road, we want the capacity to intervene and make each project fit better together and ensure that the quality of what's built in the city is of great quality, such that we're proud of everything that's happening all over the city. As you all know, as individual developers come forward and they seek to do things, they concentrate on their one individual property, but we need the ability to look more holistically at how these individual developments affect every part of the city. So we feel like an additional designer would be helpful in the Civic Design Center. Then we get into housing and community development. A few things here. Items 1 and 5 here are reflective of our interest in building our capacity to do more affordable housing rehab. That's number 1. And number 5, provide additional services to especially low-income people that are seeking to either rent or own homes. We have funding that goes towards these things now that come from the grants that we receive from the federal government. So this request for an additional $100,000 for rehabilitation first, and then also for the assistance we provide to those seeking home ownership or to rent property. Another $100,000 is to, again, build our capacity to do more of this. You all have been discussing affordable housing so much and communicating the incredible importance of this to the city. So we wanted to, in this coming year budget, reflect that in these 2 items such that we can go beyond just the grant funding we receive every year and seek to build our capacity to do more. We think 100,000 in each of these lines would be good for the coming year, and then we'll continue to discuss this, of course, as a city for every year to come. Number 2 on this list is related to the rapid housing and potential for a Hope Center move to Herbert Street in the Neck. As you all know, this has been an item of discussion for council. We just wanted to have an item in the budget for next year, essentially in the event, as we hope, that the rapid housing and new shelter can progress next year. We don't, if we're essentially budgeting for 6 months of that next year, as we need other jurisdictions in this region to come to the city and work with the city on this, what is really, as the mayor talks about frequently, such a regional issue. But we did want to demonstrate our commitment to this in next year's budget by allocating what we think would be 6 months of the investment we'd be making towards operations of the rapid housing and shelter on Herbert Street. We have 2 positions. Yeah.
Tim, if I could interject there just for 1 second, just for clarity, guys. The reason for the 6 months, I think many of you all know that at least in Charleston County, Berkeley County, their budget cycle is not calendar year like ours is. It is begins July 1. So we're still pushing them to for their commitments to contribute. I think there's political interest there to do it. It's just maintaining attention. And so we wanted to show our commitment, as Tim pointed out, and I just wanted to let you all give clarity on why it was 6 months versus a year.
Thank you, Mayor. We also have 2 positions within the Housing and Community Development budget. These are 2 positions for the existing Hope Center operation. We had an additional social worker position within the Housing and Community Development budget that we'd had before. We know we need that position again, so we're proposing it in the 2026 budget. And then an administrative person within the existing Hope Center. This has nothing to do with a new Hope Center staff or location. This has to do with the existing Hope Center. An administrative person to help Latasha with all the work that has to be done around compliance related to grants that we receive and just day-to-day operations at the Hope Center. So those are the 2 positions that we've got within the Housing and Community Development budget. If we go to the next slide, we'll move into planning and preservation. The first thing is an office manager position, which we're proposing. We have somebody internally for this position, so we're hoping we get that position elevated a little bit. We have all the work that goes on related to, just the administration of our boards and commissions process, but many other things. I would suggest to you, just my opinion, is that planning and preservation has a lack of kind of administrative capacity right now. So you'll see in this budget an effort to substantially enhance that capacity. So we've got this office manager position here that we've got somebody that we think would be great for that. And then we've also got an administrative assistant position here to work with as well to address just the day-to-day work within planning. We have a permit tech position here. This is just an actual elevation of an existing position within the permit center. The reason for that elevation is the person that works for BAR within and DRB within the permit center, they need to really be able to make some decisions. It's not just it's a permit tech position where you've got to have somebody that's got enough background and knowledge and skill related to those design related ordinances such that they can help people get to a decision when they come to the permit center. So we feel like that position needs to be elevated a bit. to be commensurate with our expectations for the person that's in the permit center serving preservation. We've got in the planning and preservation budget an additional enforcement officer. We have one enforcement officer now who is excellent. As you can imagine, not just in the historic districts, but throughout the city, we have just an enormous load of enforcement actions, and every single day, list of new things to investigate. So we do feel like it'd be good to get an additional enforcement officer. And then number 5 here is a staff architect position, someone to help move quickly on the BAR and DRB cases that we receive. And that is the conclusion of the requests for new programs within planning and preservation. Next, we've got a business systems analyst position. This would actually be within the section office. The reason for this position is we're doing a tremendous amount of work right now to simplify our processes. We, not unique to Charleston, but many cities have added processes to permitting over the years such that these processes can tie you up in knots. And so we're in the process of trying to detangle things. And it has a lot to do with our process mapping as to how the process works today, if we can map that, but then also shifting towards the process that we want for people that's easier to navigate, and then configuring our IT systems to align with a simpler process. And so the person that we would like devoted within the section to that work is a business systems analyst. We feel that's important to support all the work we're doing across all these departments related to simplification of our processes. I've got 2 positions here within the permit center. I've mentioned the permit center a few times. We now have a director of the permit center for the first time in the city's history, who's the best person you can imagine to do this work. Liz Kimsey is seeking to make all the improvements you would want for the permit center. They've taken on some additional responsibilities recently related to permits and continue to do that. We feel it would be hugely helpful for Liz to have an assistant director. She spends so much of her time, like many others do, troubleshooting permits. We really need her to be able to devote more time to directional work, and especially around process mapping and simplification. So we would like to get a permit center assistant director. And then a customer service liaison. If when you come into 2 George Street right now, we don't really have anyone to greet you. We do think it's important to be discussing, could we have someone here at 2 George Street that's really kind of a concierge for the permit center, but really would provide benefits beyond just the permit center. If you come into the 2 George Street, you need a permit. There should be someone there that greets you happily and shows you your way, but also even just introduces you to CSS, which is our customer service portal on the website, and says, I'm here to help you. I will help you right now. We will get this permit done, but let me introduce you to CSS, because you don't necessarily need to come down here. So they've got a kiosk or a iPad or something to take them through that process. Anyway, you get it. Somebody that's a concierge for 2 George as it relates to people entering this building that needs service. And then the last page is stormwater management position within Matt Fountain's team. This is an upgrade of a position, a project manager position, taking it to a project manager 3. You all know all the incredible work that Matt, Steve, and their teams have done related to our pump stations. The work's concluding on the Concord Street station. You got the UG Street station under construction, nearing the completion of the Spring Fishburne station. We are a city of pump stations, and Matt needs someone that will be managing that, so a higher level position. And that is the conclusion of my presentation on new programs within these 4 departments. Happy to take any questions from anybody on the committee. Thank you.
Any questions from anyone? That was pretty thorough, Tim. Appreciate you putting that together. See, Councilman Greg has his hand up. And Councilman Waring. We'll go with Greg first.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Keene. Yeah, just curious on the $14,740 here on this pump station manager. Is that why so low here? Is it just like adding job duties to somebody?
It's adding to an existing position, not a new.
Right.
That's the same question. Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great presentation, Mr. Keene. Let me ask you, going back a little bit, when you had the right-of-way asset manager, which I think is a great idea, but would that person also deal with easements, like drainage easements? The reason I say that, in the older areas, we call, I guess now they call it Inner West Ashley, from the Ashley River Bridges to 526, the older neighborhoods that were developed, as you know, many of those neighborhoods didn't have easements, and now we're having to go back and acquire easements. Some people grant them, and some people say, I got to think about it. And because they think about it and think about it and think about it, and we never get it. So water continues on rain events to not have a place to go. So our legal department, I guess, sometimes get involved, but oftentimes it sits. And I actually think we should move forward with acquisition for the doggone easements so we can fix neighborhoods, in particular the older neighborhoods, and get them draining properly. For example, Councilmember Tinkler, I think it's the Magnolia area. The city phase 1 of Forest Park drainage was something like $9 million. There's a way to literally get a ditch that will drain right into that system that's already been built to take it out to the Ashley. But I think a couple of easements, if we had them, gravity flow would, which is the most cost-effective form to fix a drainage system, would tie right back into the $9 million system that we've made the large capital improvement on. So I guess a way to be, when we run into these hurdles, when people aren't willing to grant an easement for a ditch, a system that it would create expediency. Move to if we have to buy them, then we have to buy them, but it's a lot cheaper than, the major capital expense that we already have put into the regional area that can handle it. So would this person be a point person on that, or is it a gray area there between legal and this person?
Well, as you said, council member, each circumstance is somewhat unique, and there are times when the legal office has to be involved, and we've got to find a way with a property owner for various reasons to make something work. But I will say, in answer to your question, initially, yes, this group, the asset management group, would deal with easements as well, and including, and importantly, within, as you said, the already existing neighborhoods of the city, like you were describing. So they would be an asset for our asset in many ways, but they would be helpful when it comes to these circumstances like you just described.
Okay.
Now, we've had people that have really worked hard on this before, and sometimes, as you know, council member, to some success. I mean, Matt Fountain's team and others have really worked on this, and wherever we can found solutions. It's just, we're trying to beef up our team on this, council member, because as you know, we got a tremendous amount of infrastructure in the city. We're 115 or so square miles of city that where every day we've got new streets. So we feel like it's important that we really get serious about this work.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for what you've done too, Mr. Keene, while you've been here. I appreciate the help. Made a difference.
Agreed. Tim's done a phenomenal job. So hats off to all the hard work. It really has been impressive.
Well, Mr. Mayor, we got a couple of communities around here we can make to look like Baltimore if that suits you.
Oh my goodness.
Boo. That was good. That was good.
Let me introduce you to the row house.
Councilman Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's like,
Thanks.
every morning I
Feel
wake
awful
up,
asking for such a silly.
I check the internet just to make sure nobody from the Gamecocks or the city staff hits the transfer portal. And it's a bummer when I saw that, Tim. We're going to miss you in Charleston, and you've done an amazing job here for sure.
Thank you.
But I just wanted to briefly mention that it's just so great and encouraging to hear that a lot of time and energy and thought and resources are being put into improving the city's processes. This is not a sexy discussion, but it's a very important one because it helps drive a lot of our most important goals around here, whether it be things like affordable housing, infrastructure, things of that nature. I mean, our own projects have to go through our own processes, which can oftentimes be pretty difficult. And I will tell you, as someone who interacts with a lot of local governments around the state, in a lot of places, the complexity and the difficulty in navigating the process is a feature, not a bug. And so it's very refreshing and encouraging to see the city of Charleston say, this is an issue, this is a problem, and we want to spend some time and resources to fix it. And this doesn't mean that improving our processes does not mean that it's going to come at the expense of a lot of the things we hold, in very high regard around here, like stormwater, historic preservation, things like that. We can have a better process and still make sure that these very important public interests are protected. We just don't need an unnecessarily complex, time-consuming, and dysfunctional process. That doesn't do anybody any good. So I just wanted to mention how encouraging it is to see that we're devoting the time and resources to this very noble effort. So thank you all.
Ditto. All right, any other questions from members of the committee? All right, who's up now?
Jason, Mayor.
Right, Jason, sorry. Let's see, let's transfer over to Jason's section and let you take it away. Mr. Kronsberg.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to give you a brief introduction, and then I'm going to go through the new program requests. And at any time, I'm trying to try to hit the high points of the request. And at any time, please ask questions if you have them. I think Tim said it best in that we don't need to tell you all how fast the city is growing and how our new city assets are coming online. With that being said, our budget request is a little bit different in that we represent a number of different departments across the city. So, excuse me, the way this is set up is the first portion of the request will be the section staffing needs, followed up by vehicles and equipment needs, and then staff identified building and mechanical system type replacements and or work needs, followed up by police department requests and then recreation department requests. So even though recreation might be last and CPD is just near there, they're in the order that they presented them. And then there will be some things that are interspersed in and out as we were jockeying around with getting the document finalized in the past 24 hours. So again, last year, we made a budget request and we didn't have any facility staffing in that request. We were in limbo with my deputy director had resigned. I was trying to bring on a new deputy director. He lasted about 3 months. He was an internal hire. Then he got lured off to the private sector. We've just recently hired a new deputy director for facilities. His name is Michael Kennedy. He's on the line. He's come in. raring to go and has been extremely helpful so far. He came in just as the budget had been finalized. So for the facilities division of the section, we have 6 new staffing requests and then 14 additional positions in parks, grounds, maintenance. And this is how they're broken down in order of the priorities on the sheet you have in front of you. So number 1 would be a tradesmaster's position. So this position would assist in the repair and maintenance, renovation, and construction of city-owned facilities, and supporting plumbing, HVAC, pump systems, painting, carpentry, equipment repairs, and everything else. And it goes without saying that each one of these positions is to support either new or innovative facilities with an increasing workload that comes through our construction division on a daily basis. The second priority would be 4 parks maintenance specialists. This was a request that we made last year as well. It did not get funded, although we had some other positions that did get funded. So this will provide the ability to provide really labor support to our equipment operators, irrigation techs, and spray techs. So right now, most of our positions are working on a solo basis. And when we get out to try to do small or medium projects, there's nobody to support them. So they're kind of working solo. So that would help our bench depth across the city to get projects done. Third priority, maintenance carpenter. This is a position that will construct and repair woodwork and equipment on the buildings around the city. We've had great success hiring a couple really skilled carpenters lately, and we're able to get some really good quality work done with those staff members versus having to contract it out. Port staff, again, 3 positions there. This is a new request to expand our horticulture offerings across the city, supporting higher quality landscape enhancements and maintenance in existing parks and new facilities as we renovate and or open new areas each year. Moving on, construction technician 2. Again, this is to support our construction division and facilities work around the city, whether new or renovated. 6th priority would be an urban forestry technician. As you all know, I know you get lots of requests for tree work across the city. So this position is intended to serve the growing needs of our urban forest, focusing on the management and oversight and implementation of contracted tree work. So our goal over the coming years is to have one of these urban forestry technicians for each of the 5 main districts of the city that would then manage contracts citywide. And to be more efficient, we would always have our in-house crews that respond and report to immediate needs. And this is all supported by our recently completed street tree and park tree inventory, which has documented 67,399 trees that are city owned and maintained. So I know you've all heard me before. It's a big project out there, and that inventory is recommended tier 1 and tier 2 removals. That's over 2,000 trees that they have recommended based on tree by tree inventory for removal. So we've got that mapped out in a 2 to 3 year program, and then base budget items will support that work. And then the next request would be for an urban forestry crew that would be strategically dedicated to work in parks and around facilities. So right now we've got about a 9-month backlog in work order requests around the city. What we do is we evaluate each one of those requests, determine if it's a life safety issue versus an aesthetic type prune that's been requested, and it gets in a work order, and it might take 8 or 9 months for it to come up in the queue as the forestry staff continues that work around the city. 8 is an assistant superintendent for our superintendent of construction. This position will help schedule and control flow of work, support administrative duties for that superintendent, as well as working in the field. So again, as each time we produce a new facility or renovate one, our workload increases. And then number 9 is something that we've been talking about for a few years now. It's a mechanical systems manager. So basically this position in facilities would support our growing city building management systems infrastructure related to new facilities. Right now we have city operations complex on the way, Johns Island Rec Center, W.L. Stevens Pool and Rec Center, police fleet and fire operations. Each of those very large facilities will have very complex mechanical systems in it. And we need someone that can help the existing staff either manage contracts, diagnose issues, and then report out the needs as they come up. Number 10 is Keep Charleston Beautiful Education Coordinator. So this position is an upgrade to a current part-time intern position in Keep Charleston Beautiful to full-time. So that current part-time position is funded via donations from the Friends of the Keep Charleston Beautiful program. And it's a great program. The full-time position would make it possible to expand and update the educational components of Keep Charleston Beautiful, which is to create a more high school focused outreach program in support of the lower school outreach that intern currently does. So last year, that program has met with over 3,000 young students talking about recycling, litter control, and all of the things that you would want to educate the use of today. Continue on, number 11, Construction Technician 1. Again, a new staff member to support the growing needs of the city from a facilities maintenance construction point of view. And then skipping one down, a new vehicle to support an existing KCB program manager that we were able to hire last year with the new budget cycle. And then coming down to below this, we get into more equipments with a couple interspersed items in here. So a scissor lift is needed. Typically, we rent these types of lifts and take them into facilities or tight spaces on our ball fields or courts where we need to get up to adjust lighting. So without having to rent, spend the time to pick up and drop off equipment, this would just make us more efficient. And then number 14 is something that we've been trying to do in-house with our current staff. We're just not able to keep up with the pace. So this is a contracted flat roof inspection citywide. It would be quarterly inspections that would identify issues or needs in over 21 facilities that we have with flat roofs, with more to come. So the issue there is if the flat roof has a clog and when these rain bombs happen, unfortunate things can result from that, which we have experienced this year already. So that's a contract service that we would initiate citywide. And then we need a trailer for our backhoe, a SCDOT compliant trailer. Keeping on going, spare truck requests. Many times when we take vehicles up to fleet for maintenance, or they get shipped out to the dealership for repair, we don't really have anything to replace that with. So, fleet doesn't have another truck that would suit our needs that's just waiting as a spare. So we need some spares around the shop. We used to have spares. Every now and again, we'll have a truck that fails in the middle of the year and it gets deadline, but it was never on a list to be replaced. So that's just kind of, again, some bench depth. Number 17 is a new truck to replace one of those situations that happened this year. We had a truck that was deadlined, unexpected, and we have nothing to back it up with. Then getting out of vehicles and equipment, moving into the gill yard. We have some items that we need to work on at the gill yard. The cooling tower needs an upgrade. That cooling tower serves 6 air handlers throughout the facility. And it due to age, use, environmental conditions, we've repaired it as much as we can, and we need to give it a rebuild. Number 19 is for the data room in the IT area. So this unit is failing. We've been repairing it. it's time to replace it. It keeps the IT server room cool and supports citywide data systems. So all of those servers that are in IT have a separate conditioning system that needs to be replaced. And then number 20 is a request from our accessibility coordinator. The request is to retrofit 8 door systems throughout the facility for accessibility needs. So basically you're running push button systems, electrical, and hardware to accommodate those users. And then on to the Arthur Christopher, the Arthur Christopher Center. So that building has, I think there's 8 or 9 air handler units on the roof. One of them's being replaced currently. We need to replace 2 each year and get that facility's mechanical systems in a redundant fashion. Hope to get that done over 2 to 3 years. And then number 22 is a cellular communications item for our fire and elevator panels at 9 locations. Basically, the landlines are not operable anymore, and this is a Wi-Fi compatible communication systems for emergency communications in the fire and elevator panels. 23 is a third-party project management funding. So we've been working on for the past couple months, as requested by the mayor, is and to mimic somewhat what Mount Pleasant Capital Projects does. They have a third-party project management contract where they're able to utilize the approved project management teams to either analyze and assess potential property purchases, conducting feasibility studies for projects on those parcels of land, preparing programs and scopes of work, working within city staff, and then develop proper industry standard cost estimates for those projects so that when we start them, we're starting them from a really good, comfortable place as far as the funding needs are identified. Again, this will make us more efficient as we're currently doing all of that in-house with each project manager trying to fill those needs as they're managing projects on a daily basis. And then number 24, there are a number of gateway landscape enhancements that we've been talking about with the mayor for a number of months. As you come into the city, into either West Ashley, James Island, and both portals of West Ashley, and from I-26 and the peninsula. So that would be funding to support that initiative. And then as we continue on, Market Head Hall, monumental doors, they're in need of some repairs. They've been repaired over time with laminate and mahogany. That laminate is peeling. The goal is to purchase those materials and get that work done with our in-house carpenters. And then moving on to police department maintenance requests, refinishing the floors throughout the headquarters, and additionally interior updates throughout the facility of cabinetry, countertops, soundproof paneling, and painting of many rooms in the facility. And then some things that are needs out there that we've identified. The Maybank Tennis Center needs a new roof, needs a shingle roof replacement. The DeReef Park House downtown in DeReef Park had some termite damage and has some accessibility issues that need to be enhanced. So that request would be for those. Brittlebank Park, we started a couple of years ago replacing the decking, and in a phase scenario, this is the phase 2 of that decking to replace the old wooden deck with the composite decking to serve those publics with waterfront, those public citizens for waterfront access. This year, we've replaced a number of scoreboards in our parks around the city. This is to continue that process at West Ashley Park Baseball and Governor's Park to support rec programming and get those components up to date. And then we have a request for some GPS monitoring of vehicles just to make sure that we're working most efficiently and routing through the city as best as possible. 33, we need to enhance our ponds around our parks with aerators. So we have ponds at Bayview, West Ashley Park, Ackerman, Bees Landing, and Governors. Basically, these ponds are there to support our irrigation system. So the cleaner that water, the better our irrigation components work, and the less that they will wear out and break. So that'll improve the water quality and keep those fields getting watered. Down at Rag Square, we did a bunch of work there with a sizable donation from a local family. That work needs to continue. That historic wall that faces Meeting Street is failing and cracking due to deteriorated mortar and tree root intrusion. So we need to get that wall secured before it's a short wall, but it still needs to be secured nonetheless. Window tinting at Arthur Christopher Center, lessening UV solar gain, and that's a request again from Recreation, coming back out of some of those other items I just mentioned. Another request from Recreation was we've done this before, it helps, is to install standalone utility poles with an osprey platform on the top. What happens is the ospreys love those high perches. They get in and build nests in our lights, and then we can't turn those lights on until they're finished nesting, because the nest can catch fire, and those ospreys are federally protected. So we've had some luck around at James Island Rec. Hopefully the ospreys are nesting on the platform this year. And then as we continue on, we have James Island Rec Center, some work in the asphalt driveway transitioning from the roadway into the gravel parking area. Just need to get that apron enhanced and improved. And then at Thomas Johnson Parkhouse and McMahon Parkhouse, 3839, redo those floors with an epoxy floor finish. We've been using the epoxy floor coating in the restrooms of these older parkhouses, and it's served well. They're easier to maintain. They're more resilient to wear and tear, and it gives the floors a nice finished appearance. And then as the low line work is being contemplated, there's an increased expectation to increase, well, and not only expectation, but need to increase the maintenance of that corridor through our contracted services, more than just the base contracted services. So basically, when we put the scopes of work together for the contract maintenance work around the city, it's a basic service, and this one, with its proximity and the work that's getting ready to happen, needs to be increased. Down at Joe Raleigh Waterfront Park, we did this work back in 2012, and it's in need of it again. The number of trees down there and the trip hazards that those roots have created has gotten to the point where we are having some trip and falls and some tort claims. We've gotten our own staff down there to address the major trip and fall issues, but we need to get all of the hardscape pulled up and reset again. We did this last in 2012, and it just needs to happen again. We need to enhance drainage, irrigation systems, and redo the garden rooms, which are core to that park down there. And then over West Ashley, outer West Ashley on the Greenway, many years ago, the footbridges were installed, and over the years, the users have created trails in and around those footbridges, and we've had some extreme erosion that's wearing away at the foundations and banks around there. We need an engineered solution and repair to get those trails stabilized. The Bayview field netting request is supplementing a request that we had last year. Basically, when we got into our field netting project, we realized that the Bayview netting has to be raptor safe netting, because there's a bald eagle nest that's right there, and and you have to have a special netting that's quite expensive to put in that protected zone. And then number 44 out at Hampton Park, our Hort staff has been hand watering the Rose Walk, which is the main oval around the lagoon down there, since that project started way before me. And so Hort staff uses hoses and sprinklers to water those beds. They've requested that we install an irrigation system in the rose beds for the entire oval. So basically right now we spend 10 to 20 hours per week for one staff member, depending on the heat, the amount of rain that we have, equaling about 700 hours of labor each, 750 hours of labor each year. We'd like to get that irrigation system automated, and so that we can focus on more important needs than just watering, which is important. And then out at Bees Landing Rec Center, we've been struggling with soil conditions and the deer out there, believe it or not. That site, the soil conditions were pretty horrible from day one when it opened, a little bit before my time as that project was being designed. So we want to get the landscape around the building and the entry areas improved, focusing on soil conditions and plant material, so we can just kind of upgrade the aesthetics and the entry experience for that facility. And then over the past year or so, we've had requests for shade around our courts, our tennis and pickleball courts. So we have these in there as well to provide some small shade structures at Island Fleming on Johns Island and Moultrie downtown. So I know that was a lot, and I'd like to open the floor up for any questions. And Edmund, Michael, and Clark are here as well if I can't answer your questions.
Any questions from the committee? I'm trying to look over.
Yeah.
Again, pretty thorough presentation, Jason. Thank you. Councilwoman Parker, did I see your hand up? I can't see the Councilwoman Parker, and then we'll go to you, Councilman Ware.
Okay.
Okay, yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Kronsberg. I believe it was item 7. I know you touched on it a little, but can you further explain how that will help? I mean, it's about $750,000. Is that for multiple positions, or how is that going to help with the turnaround time of the pruning requests citywide?
So that,
And then one more follow-up question.
Sure. So the urban forestry is a crew, and which would include equipment, vehicles, chippers, and so right now we have not focused on park trees, and it shows because with the 10-month backlog of work orders for street trees and identifying risk trees, we just need to expand our forestry capability so that we can have at least a crew that focuses in on parks that would work with our urban forestry technicians in the future. So it's a dedicated crew that would focus on parks specifically.
Okay, so that you're adding a new crew is what I'm asking.
And the number is high because that would include a bucket truck and chipper, things like that.
Okay, all right, thank you. Just one quick follow-up question. I mean, as we know at our recreation meetings, you give us a pretty detailed list of park upgrades. You know, some are capital improvement projects, some are recreation driven. So if we don't see it on this list, I mean, because I don't see a lot of sort of playground equipment upgrades, you know, mulching, is that sort of on you dictate that on an as needed? Is that on your capital improvement list, or where are those line items? Because if we don't see it on this list, then those parks won't be seeing any upgrades in the upcoming year. Correct?
Right. So is your question specifically on playground equipment or just playgrounds in general?
I think it's a mix. I mean,
Right.
I'm talking citywide,
Right.
broad stroke here, like
Sure.
our community playgrounds all citywide that might need playground equipment, benches, upgrades to their community centers, bathrooms, whatever that need might be. I'm just asking if we're not seeing it here on this list, then no upgrades are planned on those.
There are a number of projects that are either in the capital improvement plan or other maintenance projects that are ongoing. So we try to do one playground a year at a minimum. Mulching comes out of our operating budgets, and if it's not listed on here specifically, doesn't mean that there's nothing contemplated, but it's not a specific request. Some of these staffing positions, the park maintenance specialist would be utilized to do these small playground and park house renovations on the exterior, as well as the additional of the horticultural staff that we could use around the city to start increasing the level and quality of care and maintenance around some of these other parks in the city. So we have accomplished a pretty amazing number of playground renovations since 2012. I don't have the number at the top of my list. We have 3 more playground equipment locations that are in the queue for replacement, which will end up our playground replacement project that was started again in 2012 and replacing 20-year or older locations for actual playground equipment. So there's a few that are currently in the work. Stephen Washington, as you know, we just finished Plymouth. Brittlebank's in design, working through the Army Corps of Engineer, landfill cap permit. We have some private donors interested in location downtown at Corinne Jones, so we're working with them. They've raised about $100,000 so far, so we're looking to match that money with our playground maintenance budget, which we try to do each year. So yeah, if it's not specifically on the list, doesn't mean it's not contemplated, but we don't have anything that we're actually working on outside.
Councilman,
Thank you.
These are just new program requests, so they do have all those budgets in their operating that would include playground maintenance and new playgrounds. You just won't see it here because these are all new program requests.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Councilman Waring?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Mr. Cronsberry, pretty impressive. Kind of remind me, I've heard a good guy say one time, learning this stuff is like drinking from the fire hose. Not to get caught up. But anyway, thanks for what you do. Let me ask, I know there's been a problem issue. I think this is, well, it is on James Island. I think it's like the baseball field out at Honey Hill.
Yes, sir.
Issue with graves being recently found. Where are we on that? Is that anywhere in the budget?
That's the Stephen Washington part that we've been working.
Right.
So we've got the Clemson students working on a project there. We have funding identified to redo the playground. We're working on a restroom project there and a refurbishment of the parking area. So we're working with the Triangle Neighborhood Association, and that all of that work is underway. Not in the ground, but the planning is.
Right. So we have identified where they're going to be relocated to, I guess, someplace else on the site, or what?
For that specific location, generally in the same spot. And again, we're working with that neighborhood group to come up with the specifics of those projects.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Any other questions? Sorry. Not seeing anybody else with their hand up. I think it was pretty thorough. Again, to the Amy's point, and Councilman Parker, you made a good clarifying point. I mean, these are new programs. There's obviously budgeted items that are year over year or capital improvements, capital project lists. that said, I mean, again, I appreciate both Jason and you, Tim, your thoroughness and the amount of detail you all have gone into here. It's very helpful. I'll say the same thing that we've said, of course, to the other folks that have presented. You know, we're not going to have enough to do everything. So, you know, we're going to be working with you all to figure out, you know, what potentially can wait a year or just vet out the priorities. So I know that goes without saying, you're aware of that, but feel like I need to say it anyway. So Councilman Ware, you've got your hand back up.
Yeah, let me tell you, this should come up someplace in the budget process, but I don't know whether this is on the Jason capital projects or what. But so Ms. Wharton, please perk up your ears. You know, the highest award that the city has, I think the Coon Award, you know, for citizen volunteerism. We've had some capital projects, frankly, that's been led by city staff that certainly has been best in class. I actually think we need to come up with I don't know what the name will be, whoever we'll name it after, but there needs to be an award. I mean, that ranks right up there. And hopefully when you get this award, you get recommended for the Order of the Palmetto. I think on that level, where we've had people who, you know, it goes above beyond for earning a salary. They do it because love a city. I mean, we just, you know, we're getting ready to round the corner on the low battery, you know, completion. And as you know, Mr. Mayor, that may be one of the projects that others around the country look at for continuation of that battery project around the peninsula. And that others will take a look. And then obviously millions of people will enjoy. My grandfather used to say when you do really good work, so when a man does good work, or a man or woman does good work, 100 years from now, you know they were him because of their good works. It lasts beyond their lifetime. And we literally got some employees that's led projects like that. I mean, we got another state-of-the-art project, the Spring Fishburne September Clark Drainage Project. That's certainly, you go near and wide, you won't find, you can go to a lot of states to find that one that's rounding the curve on that. So I said this earlier, there was an employee, I think his last name was Brown. He was a brick mason who led the brick paving in waterfront parks, so the herringbone and basket weave brick paving, where we have the Charleston benches. There's no plaque to what those people did. There's no recognition. It's not going to cost a whole lot for this to be done. But I do believe in this budget cycle, we ought to carve out something that when we have these state-of-the-arts that affects not only our citizenry, but really the visitors that come and enjoy our region. Somehow I think walking along the way, you need to know who led that and contributed for all of us to enjoy. So thought about that recently. I'll, you know, put that on the agenda, but I know there'll need to be a little carve out, but I don't see that being a significant item from a cost standpoint, because you're talking about a plaque and some engraving. But I want to throw that out for discussion, not now, but food for thought before this budget process is finished.
Yeah, I love the idea. I think it's long overdue, to your point, and I think it'd be great to recognize our employees, and I'm glad to put that in the executive budget.
Great.
I think it's a hell of an idea.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, guys. If there are no other questions, again, I think that was a pretty detailed presentation. Appreciate everybody jumping on, and we'll talk again next week.
Thank you.